Hello everybody, it's Cantonese Cat here. I want to share with you a few things I'm seeing on Mara, CleanSpark, Riot, CIFR, Hut, and Bitfarms, as well as a couple of non-miner stocks such as MicroStrategy and Coinbase. So you're seeing this is the monthly chart for Mara. I'm going to pull up the Bollinger Bands here as my friend Danny Chang 2022 have now often mentioned this crocodile's mouth, and a lot of people are like, where's the crocodile? Where are the mouth? Well, it's right here. This is the crocodile right here, and it's opening its mouth. And when that happens, usually it means that a pretty impulsive move is coming. And the direction of that impulsive move is quite often depending on where price action is. If it's on the upper part of the Bollinger Band, and if the base is over here, usually it's a 20 moving period average, and since it's a monthly chart, this is a 20-month moving average that you're seeing here. If it's curling up and the price is above that area, and if you have the crocodile's mouth open, that means generally have a direction that's going to be pretty powerful going that way. Last time when this happened for the bullish side, you can see that the mouth, like the jaw, basically dropped to the floor. And the top of the mouth is opened up like that, is curling up just like that, and then it made a pretty impulsive move that lasted for really closer to a year. We might be experiencing something similar. It might be just as powerful, it might be more powerful, it might be less powerful, nobody really knows. But something big seems to be happening right around here because the crocodile's mouth is now open to feed. And in addition to seeing the Bollinger Band, another thing that's important to look at is also how the price in relationship to the Bollinger Band is like. Usually, for many other stocks, the Bollinger Band serves as somewhat of a resistance above and a support below. And price generally don't get too far away from the Bollinger Band. If it gets above the Bollinger Band, generally at least the bar tend to touch it. If it goes way beyond, usually it means that the rubber band probably is going to slap the other way sooner or later. But when this bull trend happens, generally it tends to want to keep pushing the Bollinger Band up and keep on expanding a Bollinger Band like it's doing here. I think we might be at the beginning of something big here because we're starting to get that impulsive price action pushing upwards. Now, in addition to showing you the Bollinger Band for Mara, I want to show you the Ichimoku cloud. The monthly Ichimoku cloud gives you a pretty good picture here. In addition to the cloud itself, which can serve as either support or resistance, it can also give you an additional indicator, which is going to be this line right here, which is the Tenkan line, and the line right here, which is the Kijun line. When you have a bullish cross between the two, as you did back over here, and when those two become one and shoots up like a katana, or what my friend Danny Chang would say, Seungim Big Cantonese, excuse me. That means that two swords are joining together and working together right here. I wonder if the same thing is about to happen. Looks like you're going to have a Tenkan Kijun cross here that's going to be pretty bullish. And looks like you might be at the beginning of a pretty powerful bull trend that's starting, potentially. If you believe that history rhymes, then this could be what's happening over here. Well, you could have a couple of resistance going upwards. One would be maybe the bottom of the cloud could serve as a resistance. But the general rule is that if the cloud is green, usually it's almost like a moving average kind of pointing up, and it generally serves as a better support than is a resistance. And the cloud is red, it generally means it's kind of like a moving average moving down, and the more red it is, more likely it is to be a resistance rather than support. So because there's a very thin green cloud up here, I think it's going to be pretty weak resistance. If the price ends up pushing through it, I would not be surprised at all that it's just going to keep pushing through it, maybe getting rejected for about a month, and then the other month's just going to keep push right through, or the impressive price action is just going to keep pushing through it. Regardless, there might be a couple of resistance here to pay attention to. One is we're kind of right here right now. You see that there's a volume shelf over here. This is basically telling you the volume of which each of the price is being traded over here. The more volume that's being traded, the more likely this level is going to be pretty important friction or pretty important resistance or support. As you can tell, that the top of this volume shelf right here has kind of served as pretty important resistance for a couple of months now. It could break through. The more it touches it, the less likely it's going to be, serve as resistance, because it gets weaker as you keep attacking it. So there's a very good chance it's going to shoot up and it's going to go past it, just like it did here, if the whole idea about the Tenkan Kijun cross is working out, as well as the 20-month moving average with the Bollinger Band expansion, the crocodile pattern is working out. There's a good chance Mara would continue to go higher. Now, in terms of how much higher, we can maybe talk a little bit about that later. Let's switch gear into another one of your favorite miners, which is going to be CleanSpark. I'm going to go ahead and not change indicator here yet, but I do want to show you the Ichimoku cloud. Here you do have to be mindful. CleanSpark really wasn't that big of a miner until maybe around December of 2020. It's really started becoming a miner probably right around here at this region. Now, regardless, the Ichimoku cloud is going to serve as a support or resistance based on past price history. There really isn't that much, and before that it may not reflect what CleanSpark is now in terms of its status as one of the best Bitcoin miner there is. But regardless, you can still chart and you can still see, based on price history, based on price action, you can still see that right now it could potentially be even more bullish than Mara. As you can see that the Tenkan has surpassed the Kijun here, and you already had the cross right here, whereas Mara was close. As a matter of fact, the monthly candle right now has shot up pretty high. It looks like it's finding resistance at the bottom of the cloud, isn't it? Looks like the cloud is actually pretty thick, so there's a potential where it could potentially start getting some resistance on the way up. Although a lot of the cloud history could be reflective of the price action before CleanSpark became a Bitcoin miner, so it may not necessarily be applicable. Now, another thing to look at is you really don't have much of a volume shelf about this area, so depending on whether or not price action respects this Ichimoku cloud, there's a potential that it does, and it might take a little longer. But if this Ichimoku cloud is not really necessarily reflective of what CleanSpark has become, it may not matter that much. And there's really not much volume shelf above it, so there's a potential that resistance is not going to be that strong on its way up. Another way to look at it in comparison to Mara is, again, you can look at the Bollinger Band. Same thing. The crocodile mouth has opened, and matter of fact, the lower band has already chopped its jaw all the way down to the floor. This is how hungry CleanSpark has been. The 20-month moving average is crawling upwards. Again, everything here is telling you that this is a beginning of a powerful bull trend on a monthly basis. Now, in addition to these two, I want to show you some of the other more popular ones to try to kind of compare them. This is Riot. A lot of people ask me, what's Riot doing? Why is it lagging? I don't know. If you want to know about the fundamentals, there are a lot of people that are a lot better at telling you that. But if you look at the technicals, there are a couple of things. One is you can still see that the 20-month moving average is crawling upwards, which again is telling you that there is a beginning of a pretty powerful bull trend that could come. The other thing is the upper Bollinger Band looks like it's expanding. The lower Bollinger Band doesn't really give you that crocodile mouth opening kind of thing. It's still a little bit curling up, which is not the most ideal thing you want to see. But regardless, it's still having a little bit of expansion here, and the 20-month moving average is still crawling up. It is right around here with a big volume shelf right here as support, and it's already found support right around here, which is close to the 20-month moving average. But it's also hitting a little bit of volume shelf right up here, which can serve as a resistance. Matter of fact, it's been resistance for about the last 7 months. Once it pushed through this resistance, though, it looks like the rest of the volume shelves are quite limited, and you could really potentially enter price exploration rather quickly. Now, I'm going to be fair. I'm going to show everybody here, right? With the Ichimoku cloud, just to let you kind of compare. Again, red cloud above, potentially resistance up above, but you also are starting to have a bullish cross over here of the Tengen and Kijun. And as you see before, when it started crossing, it could potentially become a very powerful move right here. So I wonder whether or not it's going to be very similar, where it kind of appears this root cloud and going up, assuming that the right fundamentals is good, and assuming that investors' psychology have entered a very bullish stage, which to me, as far as I'm concerned, even though this is a major laggard, I don't know whether or not it's going to overperform or underperform Mara and Clean Spark. But if you look over here, it's still in the bull trend. It's just not as satisfactory. It's not as impulsive as the other ones where they're just kind of pushed outside of the Bollinger Band. But it's still relatively valuable, and it still looks like it's want to break out at some point. So that's Riot for you. Another one that's also very popular is CIFR. CIFR doesn't have as much history, but we can look at the Bollinger Band strategy here. Again, very similar. 20-month moving average started to crawl up here a couple months ago, and you can see that it's trying to break through this volume shelf, but having a little hard time doing so for over the last 7 months. Eventually, I think it's going to break through because of the positive crawling 20-month moving average, and it's also finding a lot of support right here at the volume shelf over here as well. If you look at the Ichimoku cloud, it doesn't have a cloud yet, but it's really starting to also have a bullish cross here. So far, all 4 miners that I'm showing you have this very bullish Tengen Kijun cross, potentially priming it up for a pretty good move up in a pretty nice bull market that could be coming. One that has really taken a hit was Hut 8 mining. The one thing about Hut is, even though it's underperformed, it's still kind of giving me a look that looked very similar before. You can see that back in the last cycle around 2019, 2020, it had like a, almost like a, if you kind of squint it almost looks like a like inverse head and shoulder pattern here with a couple of trees or bottoms right here, and right here. And it's also doing a very similar thing, shoulder, head, and shoulder, where it has like all these tweezer look to it. Generally, these are pretty good bottoming look, especially on the monthly. And when I see this, I really start to think that there could be a trend reversal that's happening pretty soon. Just like the last cycle, it also tend to have lagged quite some time, and the Kijun eventually crossed over with the Tengen, and it made a very bullish move just like the rest of the miner. But there might be a little bit of a lag here. And if you also look at the volume shelf, it also tells a very similar story. It's still trying to get over this big volume shelf right here. And there's also a cloud that is starting to develop because the history of Hut is also not that long. And this could potentially serve as resistance, but there's a good chance potentially that it could go up there if Bitcoin keeps being bullish like it is over the next 12 to 18 months. A lot of volume shells up here, but again, the volume shells really start to get thin above it. If you look at the one more thing I want to say is, you don't quite get the cross right here, but if price gets up here relatively quick, it could happen within the next 3 months. So I wouldn't necessarily let this discourage me. Regardless, it is a laggard, and there's never a guarantee that it's going to give you the same return as the other miners, but there's a potential this thing could catch up some, right? If you look at the Bollinger Band, I'm not making stuff up here. The 20-month moving average has been crawling up. Here is 10.10, and here is 10.26. So it's crawling up over time. It doesn't quite have the crocodile mouth open look. It could take another couple months for the price action to work out its thing, for that to happen. But it does seem to want to turn into a bullish trend over time. Bitfarms. One of the more bullish ones, this is also another one that I own, 20-month moving average crawling up, the Bollinger Band expanding, the crocodile's mouth, the bottom of the jaw has already all the way dropped down to the floor. It's ready to feed. It's been outside of Bollinger Band. They've got a very, very similar story as Mara. Matter of fact, is got past of this volume shelf right here is trying to challenge this whole volume shelf right here. Above that, I think it could get all the way up to about $5 pretty soon once it is able to push through this whole volume shelf right here. Now, in addition, again, just like all the other ones, if you look at the Ichimoku cloud, it hasn't quite crossed quite just yet, but it looks like it's going to over the next month or two. And again, with this bullish cross, generally is very favorable. It's telling you that it's got a pretty powerful bull trend that's going to keep pushing price up over time. Again, assuming how Bitcoin's doing, if it continues to do well like it has been doing. Now, in addition to Bitfarms and all of these miners, I want to also compare to a non-Bitcoin mining stock that basically is hodling tons of Bitcoin. MicroStrategy, MSTR. This thing is crazy. What I'm seeing here, and I was talking about before, I thought that the cloud's going to be pretty strong resistance. Sure enough, it hit here, back in January and been slammed all the way back down here to the 400s, found support, went back immediately up. Looks like it's trying to challenge the cloud. Looks like it's wanting to break above of it. The interesting thing about the cloud is also happens to be right at this volume shelf right here. And it's still getting some rejection for this volume shelf right here. But once it breaks through this area, my God, I think Sky might be the limit here. It also had a bullish cross, so this is favorable. It's telling you that the bull trend is starting to get pretty impulsive pretty quickly. Bollinger Band strategy, crocodile mouth open, very strongly crawled up 20-month moving average. Very bullish looking chart. Finally, Coinbase, it reported some earnings today. It was very favorable. It looks like price jumped from 165 and market closed all the way up to 187.5 post-market. What you're seeing here, very same thing. Crocodile mouth has wide opened. And it's been bouncing on and off of these, horizontal resistance here. I really think that with the move that it made, the next step is probably going to be around 220s at this volume shelf right up here. And on top of that, I want to show you what the Ichimoku cloud is looking like. There's no cloud quite just yet because there's not enough history, but it's going through the same thing. Matter of fact, looks like there's going to be a bullish Tenkan Pigeon cross is going to happen relatively soon. I do want to point out one thing here. Sometimes these lines can also serve as support and resistance. For example, you can look over here. It's really trying to kind of serve as like a support, and over here is really trying to serve as support here as well. And this is the Tenkan line right here, and it looks like it's about to form a cross too. So another question, I think I only want to talk for another 2 minutes or so. People ask me about targets, and I think targets are great to have, but it's also, you also have to kind of take it into caution too, because not every single cycle works the same. I'm just going to show the price target here for Mara, kind of show you what happened on the last cycle. I'm not going to use all the rest of this history. I'm going to use, this point right here to kind of show you in terms of the gains. It's actually hard because so if you use this point, it's not fair, right? 2014 Mara is not really quite what it's doing right now. If you use this point right here, it's kind of close to the 2018 peak, right? It kind of got rejected at 1.618, but can you imagine the life-changing money people are making from all the way over here to all the way up here, right? It's hard to say what the target is for Mara. If you target 1.618, which is a potential, right? But I think it's also reasonable if you want to stay in the stock to start taking some profits on the way. There are people, depending on how bullish Bitcoin can get, there are people who said that you can hit like 1.618 or even 2.618. 2.618 would be like $200. Right now the stock is $28. You're talking about maybe like 7 or 8x going all the way up to 2.618. If Bitcoin gets bullish and if Bitcoin pushes to 2.618, I think Mara, there's a good chance that Mara could potentially hit 2.618 as well. The targets are just targets, right? They're not really necessarily a guarantee. it could be a guide, and there are going to be algorithms that are going to start taking profits right around these Fibonacci levels. So it's good to know how to sign up for TradingView for free, and when you sign it up, you can do it for free, and you don't really need to pay to get any additional markers. You can just start drawing these Fibonacci levels and try to look for different targets and things like that. And you want to be able to learn the skill rather than having to rely on people to post it on X to show you what they could be. And you also want to think about whether or not these Fib level targets are potentially realistic or not, based on market condition, based on the personality of the stock, and based on how far you think Bitcoin could go, because usually these miners can easily 2, 3, 4x in terms of its acceleration on a bull trend compared to Bitcoin. It's been 20 minutes. I think I've talked enough. Have a good night. Bye.